I'm Ben. Ben Paul.
Somebody's gotta get left behind. Might as well be this piece of shit right here.
Kill me. Nobody can see this. I can toss you over right now and be done.
We should have left your ass in Crawford. We got enough problems. They're fucking dead, you hear me? Dad, my wife, and child, you gotta both fucking kill!
Ben!
What's good, everybody? Today I'll be discussing a character which appears in the first Telltale's The Walking Dead game, Ben Paul, and what he means to me as a character and his overall importance to the story. If you're already familiar with The Walking Dead, go ahead and skip to this timestamp. Otherwise, allow me to catch you up to speed. The Walking Dead is a comic book series written by Robert Kirkman and illustrated by Tony Moore and Charlie Adlard, focusing on telling the story of humanity's struggle for survival in the midst of a deadly zombification virus, with the series running for 193 issues and numerous different novels and one-shots expanding on the world and the characters in it. The Walking Dead exploded in popularity, with multiple different spin-offs made to capitalize on said popularity. And the most famous, or for some of you infamous, is a television series produced by AMC, which spanned across 11 seasons and 6 of its own successor shows. But if you ask anyone, the best one of these spin-offs was a choose-your-own-adventure-inspired video games by Telltale Games. Not the, other 3 games. We don't really talk about those ones. However, I digress. The popularity of Telltale's initial game was for good reason, as it took the world we already knew and put it into the perspective of new survivors with familiar faces showing throughout. Telltale was praised heavily, and rightfully so, for their handling of the characters. Much of the praise directed towards the game's main protagonist, Lee and Clementine, and their father-daughter relationship, which evolves throughout the 5 parts of the first game. However, today I'll be discussing my personal favorite character, who many people disregarded or just outright despised, the scrawny and seemingly cowardly teenager, Ben Paul, and why he's so misunderstood.
Ben!
This entire video is based upon an idea and 2 worldwide century-spanning concepts, the first one being perfectionism, and the second one being romanticism. If you're a little unfamiliar with either terms, don't sweat it. Firstly, Britannica defines romanticization as to think about or describe as being better or more attractive or interesting than it really is, essentially idealizing an object, concept, etc. to the point you're placing it on a golden pedestal. As for the definition of perfectionism, Oxford Languages defines it as the condition, state, or quality of being free or as free as possible from all flaws or defects. If you combine the 2 definitions, it forms the concept of placing such a status of adoration, fixation, or idolization on a concept, object, idea, or person that you mold a perfect golden standard of it. This concept transfers perfectly to the topic of the video. As societies, cultures, and philosophies progress and develop throughout the centuries, the expansive Western culture and its subcultures have idealized and developed this golden standard of values, core characteristics, and personality traits that a man should constantly strive to obtain and compare himself to become the perfect man in a sense. This ties into the main topic of this video, Ben Paul, the character under the metaphorical spotlight for the scope of the video. Now, you're probably dumbfounded.
You serious?
Or really confused, or just absolutely stunned because of what I just said. But hear me out. If you are consistently supporting Ben throughout the survivor's constant berating of him, even despite his repeated failures and displays of incompetence, he will actually begin to open up to you progressively, and with some extra personal observation, you can understand his personality a lot more, and allowing you to understand just how much he actually embodies quite a few of the core values that compromise this idea of the perfect man.
Ben!
We all know the internet is a wonderful place to grasp any information you could possibly want or need. And so, of course, I use the internet to do some research on what modern American society deems to be some of the most desirable core values a man can possess. Unfortunately, however, a lot of the information that me and my editor could find came from these weird, ambiguous health publications and men's lifestyle websites that concerningly reminded me of Andrew Tate's little spasms. But let's go through some of the more credible information I could find. First up, what seems to be the most universally agreed upon values is resilience. To specify, I'm referring more to mental resilience because, let's be honest, Ben was dealt some pretty shit cards and with no aces up his sleeve. Everyone Ben knew before the outbreak can be presumed dead, but we'll put a pin in that for now, because when we first meet him, the very last link he had to the world before the outbreak were both killed in front of him in the matter of minutes. Travis and his teacher David. This alone would scar your average teenager, certainly for life, but Ben moves on. The best thing that one can do after witnessing something like that. And all throughout the events of the game, he seems to be the one to handle grief better than anybody else. We see it rip Kenny apart from the inside, weigh down upon Lee's consciousness every waking moment, and really crush Clementine's childlike innocence. But Ben has this life goes on mentality cemented into his mindset, which becomes more apparent when Ben absolutely loses his shit on Kenny and Savannah, essentially humbling him and shattering Kenny's tough guy persona by making it clear that the cowardly, incompetent teenager can handle this hellish reality better than one of the most mature and masculine characters.
Clementine is who the fuck knows, and we're robbed of the only hope we've had.
So?
So Lee should have left your ass in Crawford. We got enough problems. Fuck you, Kenny!
Kenny, stop!
No, let him. I am so sorry about Katya and Duck. I am! And I know I fucked up. But stop pushing me around and stop wishing I was dead! No! You know how they die. You've said goodbye. I never got to see my family, my parents, my little sister. Do you get that? Your family is gone, but at least you had them to lose. I never made it home. They could be alive or dead or walkers or worse, and I don't know! So give me a fucking break!
Oh, Ben,
Ben is extremely compassionate, really pointing to the fact that his mentality hasn't completely transitioned into a survival of the fittest mindset yet. He more so acts like how a person would react to a natural disaster, rather than becoming cold and jaded like his fellow survivors after months into the apocalypse. It's possibly an ignorance is bliss situation, but it becomes more prevalent throughout the game that he knows more about the world than even our protagonists do.
why didn't you tell us he was bitten?
What?
He was bitten, and you didn't say a goddamn word!
But he wasn't bitten, I swear!
Well, your not-bitten friend here came back to life and tried to kill my wife!
What? Wait, you all don't know?
What the hell are you talking about?
It's not the bite that does it. You come back no matter how you die. If you don't destroy the brain, that's just what happens. It's gonna happen to all of us.
We're all infected? Everyone?
I guess so. I don't know. All I know is that I've seen people turn who I know were never bitten. When I first saw it happen, we were all hiding out in a gym and everybody thought we were finally safe. But one of the girls, Jenny Pitcher, I think, I guess she couldn't take it. She took some pills. A lot of them. Someone went in the girls' room the next morning and... God.
Now, I mentioned that he operates more as a normal human in the matter that, if you choose to continuously emotionally support him throughout the constant berating almost every survivor you meet hurls at him, he's consistently grateful for the help. And he's often the first one to volunteer to help you, displaying this perfectly when he aids you to help find Clementine and Savannah right before Lee is bitten, and continues to help despite knowing that Lee is bitten and poses an imminent danger to the group. He's sympathetic towards Lee's cause, and recognizes Clementine as the single most important person in his life, being able to develop that emotional and mental understanding that this is a child's life, and it must be protected at all times.
Can't make that decision for you, man. You have to decide for yourself.
You've been good to me, Lee. Even when it's not been easy. Whatever I can do to help, you can count on me.
Okay, guys, we should go find Vernon, see if he took her. Let's head out.
His assistance in Lee's mission to protect Clementine displays another aspect of Ben, loyalty. And I'm a big advocate that loyalty is earned and not automatically deserved, as I'm sure many of you are as well. So if you treat Ben poorly throughout the entire game, don't expect him to help you as extensively as he did in my playthrough. The same logic is displayed in Kenny's mentality too, but as a more toxic version, as disagreeing with him in any manner or simply refusing to help him with whatever he's planning automatically counts as unloyal, whereas Ben doesn't expect you to constantly be supporting him in arguments that he started, unlike Kenny. But just to have his back and be a decent person to him, which is why I view him as a loyal person in one of the purest understandings of the term.
Lee, man, you know I care about Clementine, and I am a Christian man. And I keep asking myself, if this was me, asking you for help, asking you to put your life on the line, would you be there for me? Because there have been plenty of times when you ain't been.
Kitty, man, I'm begging you here. I can't do this alone. I need your help, please.
Lee, I know you had my back when we first teamed up. You really looked out for me and mine. But ever since then, you've been looking out for yourself more often than your friends. I'm sorry, but you're on your own on this one.
What about you, Ben?
I don't know. Whatever you think is best.
I can't make that decision for you, Ben. You have to decide for yourself.
You've been good to me, Lee. Even when it's not been easy. Whatever I can do to help, you can count on me.
One of Ben's biggest moments in the game wasn't from a heroic action or a game-changing decision. It was him finally being assertive and gathering the confidence in Kenny's endless verbal onslaught against Ben's essentially his existence. Now, honestly, this point wouldn't mean nearly as much if we didn't witness him making a vital change to his personality over the course of the game's events. From when we first met him, and he was quiet and essentially defenseless, to the later stages of the game where he becomes visibly more confident and able to assert what he wants and his position on matters without it being automatically overruled by more vocal survivors within the group. I'm willing to bet quite a bit of cash that Ben isn't really the first example you think of when you hear this word. If you examine Ben though, he actually becomes a perfect example of it. He's one of the few people mature and stable enough to justify his existence in this new world and cope with his place in it. He openly acknowledges that his family is more than likely dead.
Get that? Your family is gone, but at least you had them to lose. I never made it home. They could be alive, or dead, or walkers, or worse, and I don't know! So give me a fucking break!
Along with witnessing the only people remaining that could be confirmed to be alive, dying when we first meet him. And instead of wallowing in misery and depression, he moves on with his life and continues to try to survive, with the exception of telling Lee to leave him behind to give the others a chance to escape from the bell tower, while still honoring the memory of his loved ones.
Ben, climb up! Come on, you can do it!
There's no time! You have to go! Now!
Quit fucking around, Ben! Come on!
Let go, damn it! Get the others out of here!
Lee,
Lee, we both know. Let me go. Why?
He confronts Kenny about his lack of stoicism during the two's argument at the mansion in Savannah, which kind of perfectly captivates the observation that Kenny is really just in a downward rapid spiral into insanity and owes it to the death of his family, while Kenny is the one constantly calling Ben weak, but really he's the one who lacks the strength to move on or even just try to survive anymore. And there's an argument that could be made that Kenny was obviously grieving and probably in the anger stage of grief, but throughout the game, Ben's point is only reinforced as he becomes more volatile and abusive towards everyone around him, especially in the second season of the games. Lastly, I'm going to discuss Ben's courage. Again, this seems contrary to his entire character, but throughout the later points of the game, if you treat him well enough, he becomes somewhat courageous and selfless, more so than most of the characters you will meet throughout any of Telltale's games in the series. Firstly, he aids in the dangerous evacuation of survivors from the motel during a raid from the Woodland Bandits and nearby walkers simultaneously. Second, even though he was the one offering supplies to the Woodland Bandits as tribute to keep the group safe, when Lily turns her accusations towards Doug or Carly, respective to your choices in the game, he will attempt to admit that it was him to prevent Lily from harming or exiling an innocent member of the group. Third, he offers himself as sacrifice in the bell tower so that the others can escape from the horde of walkers pursuing him. It's your choice if you save him or not, and of course this is a video about him, so I did. And fourth and last, depending on your choices in the game, relating to how you treated Ben, he'll offer to volunteer in searching for Clementine throughout Savannah, even despite Lee's infection. And there were more examples of Ben actually being pretty courageous and helpful throughout the game, but this were some of the more better mentions. But I should still mention that he also comes with Doug or Carly to help you at the Andersons' farm when you guys basically show up as missing.
Ben!
Ben really isn't the character you should hate in Telltale's game series, and is really one of the more admirable characters in the game due to his development. I had a bunch of other points to throw in, but for the sake of brevity, I'll leave it here. Feel free to discuss your opinions on Ben in the comments. Did this video really convince you that he had potential to be a great example of positive masculinity? Or was he really just an incompetent teenager who risks the lives of others around him? And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around in good health.